Okay, we should have colleagues who have joined us now. Welcome, everybody. My name is Gordon McFarlane. I'm one of the vice presidents for the PPMA. I'm also assistant director for HR and some other services in Leicestershire County Council. And I've been asked to facilitate this latest in a series of webinars, and absolutely delighted to be here and glad so many could join. And we've got Simon Pollen, who's, as you can see from the screen, Strategic Resourcing and Talent Acquisition Manager. Catchy title, Simon, at Richmond and Wandsworth. And I'm going to hand over in a second to Matt Ingram-Smith, who's a SaaS Solutions Manager. And Matt will introduce himself a little bit more and then start to take us through the presentation. So hopefully everybody can see the screen. If I can just ask you to stay on mute, and then we won't have any kind of interference with the sound. So without further ado, let me hand over to Matt.
Brilliant. Thanks for that, Gordon. Slightly disappointed that you don't have Letham's top hat on today, but I suppose we can make it.
I don't want to upstage him.
I'm not sure there's anyone
chance would be a fine thing.
Brilliant. Thanks for that, Gordon. So yeah, I'm Matt from Tribepad. You're not going to hear too much from me, but we're really proud to be working closely with Richmond and Wandsworth and provide the tech that sits behind and supports their fantastic achievements. Be it engaging internal stakeholders, improving candidate experience, being able to report on improvements, making progress on ED&I, you name it, they are doing it. So I'm here really just to introduce Tribepad and Simon to you. However, just before I do so, I know we're a little bit late with Halloween, maybe only out by a couple of weeks. Great timing, Matt. But I wanted to just run a quick poll, and this is based on our End Ghosting campaign. So there's the tenuous link with Halloween out of the way. So the question is this. What percentage of UK adults have been ghosted by a recruiter or a prospective employer? So I'm happy for you to start dropping your answers into the chat box. And just whilst you're doing that, I'll just give you the briefest of overviews of Tribepad and who we are, the stuff that we want to get out of the way. We are the easiest to use talent acquisition platform, according to our clients, that is. So our complete TA platform includes things like the ATS, CRM, onboarding, video interviewing, and a fantastic ecosystem of partners as well. Not just that, but we're on a mission to make the world a better place. So we've helped plant nearly 400,000 trees in Madagascar rainforests, and have made to date over $40,000 worth of loans to micro entrepreneurs in developing countries. As well as Richmond and Wandsworth, we work with a whole host of different public sector organisations, and it's good to see some of our clients represented on the call today, not to mention the likes of your Tesco's, Subway, Pizza Hut and G4S. And all of these organisations want a great experience alike for both candidates and hiring managers, with requirements that the standard off-the-shelf SaaS products can't handle, and a need for far higher levels of service and support that the massive global software players are just not prepared to offer. To do that, we have our own systems, our own platforms, as well as a growing partner ecosystem. We've just been named an Indeed key partner in Europe, and we're the first European TA suite to have been selected by Facebook's Facebook for Jobs integration, which is really exciting. And we've got over 50 providers on this partner ecosystem, and we're growing this almost on a daily basis, which is pretty much enough for me. So I want to give you the results from the poll. Hopefully everybody's had a chance to put your numbers in. So the number or the percentage of UK adults who have been ghosted by prospective employers or recruiters. And the silent drum roll can reveal, if you were anywhere near 65%, then you can give yourself a gold star. So 65% of adults have been ghosted by recruiters or prospective employers, and which is a big number. An even bigger number is that of those, 86% of those ghosted applicants are or report being depressed or feeling let down as a result of that. And then staggeringly, 94% of those are left with negative thoughts towards the employer brand as a result of it. Which is huge, isn't it? So we have a real opportunity to work with our hiring managers, our internal stakeholders, to encourage them to think about the bigger picture when it comes to giving feedback or just closure, actually, to all candidates, regardless if they're successful or unsuccessful. So there's the tenuous link again into our topic today of engaging with your internal stakeholders. So I'd like to introduce, without further ado, Simon, who's got a fantastic story to tell. You may recognise him from a recent outing of Question Time, where he was a guest of sorts. Ask him at another point about his thoughts on Lisa Nandy, and I'm sure you won't be disappointed. But Simon, over to you. We can't wait to hear from you.
Thank you very much indeed, Matt. That was quite the build-up, wasn't it? To live up to that now. Hopefully there's not too much background noise. I'm in the office today. We're hybrid working. I was hoping I'd be at home. It'd be nice and quiet, but I needed to come in the end. Hopefully it's quiet. So we've been on a journey at Richmond in Wandsworth. We've been working closely with Tribepad. We've been engaging with our internal stakeholders. We've been trying in many ways to be innovative and different and think about how local government can work from a recruitment perspective in a smarter way that is not a them and us, but actually very team focused and working with you. So how have we done that? You can see on the screen there, recruitment workshops, and this is probably the biggest thing, and this has been really successful, and we'll go into some detail on that shortly. The ED&I approach, anonymous applications, engagement and relationships. So I think, really building those relationships with hiring managers, allowing the recruitment team to be less transactional, more relationship and more project focus, reducing agency usage, something that we'd all like, and as it says at the bottom again there, being more project focused. So this little caption there, that's one of the slides we have from our little training workshop. Why don't we have any fresh ideas around here? Okay, so if we pop on to the next slide. Thank you, Matt. So one of the things that we talk about in the workshop, one of the first things that we do is try to keep things simple. So I don't know if you know the old KISS, keep it simple, stupid. So we're just trying to break down the recruitment process and say, look, there are actually only 12 simple steps here. Some of those are your responsibility, Mr. or Miss hiring manager. Some are our responsibility and some are joint. So just making that clear and talking about each of those different stages. But they're all really important. And I think probably the most important actually is number 12, because if we get the evaluation forms back, we have a good idea of what we're doing well, and more importantly, what we could do better. So I send out a quarterly MI report that goes to all the HR BPs, the HR consultants, the head of HR, and assistant director and director of resources. And they get this nice sort of overview, quarterly overview, and it shows a flow chart showing how the different directorates within our organization are doing in terms of hiring volumes. There'll be a particular peak for whatever reason for some, but most of them you'll see follow the same sort of pattern. But what I really like is when we get to the tab for evaluation forms, because we're now getting on average 200 to 300 responses per quarter from candidates, and between 50 and 100 hiring manager responses per quarter. And there's a series of questions there. There's maybe 10, 12 questions, and then there's an overall score. And we're looking to achieve 80% plus good or excellent responses, which we're doing. But the important thing is we're finding out where those cases are, where things could be better. So getting that insight, getting those reports back, allowing the individual advisors and the manager to take ownership over going back and finding out what went wrong, what we could do better. It's often pre-employment checks or something that's out of our control. Thanks, Louise. I'm really happy with the feedback rate. As I say, it's mandatory. It's part of the process now that candidates do need to come back to us. It's part of the actual process and for hiring managers as well. So we don't allow them to sort of move on in terms of closing the process off until they've done this. And I'm absolutely happy to share after this meeting and send on through Matt any details. And that's the reason I'm here, because we're not perfect, we're on a journey, but I think we're doing some great things, and I hear and pick up great things from other people. So I'm always really keen to share ideas and to hear new ideas. That's what we're all about, helping each other. We want the best outcomes, particularly in the not-for-profit sector, I think, where we're not trying to come across as a sort of necessarily the slickest organization. That actually is quite the opposite. We're trying to be authentic. We are who we are, and we're showing that we want people to join us for the right reasons. Okay, if we pop onto the next slide, we'll see what's new in recruitment. So this is a bit of a snippet of what's new in recruitment. So through Tribepad, we are paperless now, very different to before I joined a year and a half ago. Partly COVID has probably given that a bit of a hurry up. It's been no bad thing. So we've got really nice simplified pre-employment checks now. It's completely paperless. We have got the team really understanding what they can get out of Tribepad. So there's so much data that we can use there. That data, and I'll come to this again a bit later, but I think that data, it's really important, I feel, that we understand what data is required, from who, what for, when, why, and we give it to them on an ad hoc basis when they need it. Because whilst I talked about that quarterly overview, it's more important for the advisors and myself to have really good relationships with HRBPs, with consultants, so they can go to their senior management teams and say, what do you need and why? And focus on 2 or 3 achievable objectives that we can drill down on. So yeah, more detail on that later. Other things that are new: diversity focused job boards, anonymized application. That's been quite difficult. It wasn't something that everybody jumped at and said, yeah, we'll do that. There were lots of objections, lots of people saying, well, what if I know somebody from another council, or how will this work? But actually, it's a try it and let's see how it goes. And we are 100% anonymized in pretty much all but our adult social services now, which is around sort of 50 to 60. So that's going really, really well. Our adverts have pretty much all got embedded video content. So we are really pushing that, and I'll come on to that again in a bit, but it's so important. And if we can't get the video content, at least we'll get a nice picture of the hiring manager, maybe with a caption, something we can use and put out there on LinkedIn. An ED&I sample question bank for interviews. So we've produced that to ensure that we ask and score an ED&I question. And we ensure that we have diverse panels, which is always an interesting one, because there'll always be pushback. What constitutes a diverse panel? Well, at this point, we're looking to walk before we can run. So it's looking at ethnicity, it's looking at gender, it's looking at visible differences to start with, and making sure that we're doing that 100% of the time. And by engaging internally with your networks, you get that buy-in, you get that support. So it's still a work in progress, but I'm very glad to say that this sort of sign-off that we had before, where you could go to an assistant director or a director and say, well, actually, I don't have diversity in my team or in my department enough, I can't provide this. That's taken away. Sorry, you can. We have a very diverse staff, but in fact, there may be, as with many, a pyramid where there's a bit too white or a bit too male at the top, but that doesn't mean that we should have any issues in terms of finding diverse panels. And we've connected well with the REN, our Racial Equality Network, and we've got a number of volunteers there, actually. So if there are any times where we do struggle, we've got people that will put their hands up and say, I'm happy to help out here. I will help. Thank you, Matt. If we pop onto the next slide. Yeah, some things already mentioned there: diverse interview panels, the LinkedIn side of things are really getting the message across how important LinkedIn is, and we do that in the recruitment and selection training. We really push that. We share some videos. We also have an overview video from the CEO. We have overview videos from assistant directors and directors within each directorate. So housing will have a video, children's will have a video, and so on. So, you know, there's no reason why, if you're associate director in, say, climate change or environment, community services, doesn't feel comfortable, that there isn't another team member that could produce it and do it. And we're talking about a 1-minute video. Get it on your phone, keep it simple, and we give really good guidance for that. Do we pay LinkedIn employer recruitment? We do. So I think what we have is not the fanciest, most expensive LinkedIn. I think we're paying around sort of 15-20k, to be honest with you, which gives us 6 slots at any one time, and some boost to the employer page. But I can come back and answer that question more specifically later. So the applicant tracking system, those reporting tools I was talking about, you know, it's important that the stats are at the moment that it's needed, at the moment it's required, not just the overviews every quarter. Okay. So I just wanted to give you an example of a couple of videos. You see they're not too long, and hopefully you'll agree that they're quite sort of authentic. So we'll just have a quick look at those 2 videos, and I'll mute myself.
Hi, my name is Nick Pendry, and I'm the Deputy Director for Children's Services in Wandsworth. So why should you come to Wandsworth? Because Wandsworth is a place where we're doing strengths-based, relationship-focused, transformational work with children and families. We are absolutely committed to changing the lives of children and families, to protect children from harm, and to ensure that every child and young person we work with is able to fulfil their potential. It's an exciting and a vibrant place to work, where we will support you to deliver the best practice you can and to really fulfill your potential. It's friendly, it's warm, it's generous. So come to Wandsworth.
Hello, my name is Nana Bonsu and I'm Head of Clinical Services here in Wandsworth. I'm so delighted that I'm able to recruit family systemic psychotherapists to work alongside our social workers and practitioners in delivering clinical intervention for families. We are at a really exciting time in our journey in Wandsworth, developing a number of pioneering services to work with those in our communities who need our support and help at times of challenge and crisis. We're developing a family safeguarding model which will have a number of specialists co-located alongside social workers, delivering service in a timely and robust manner. I'm also head of service for a number of pioneering creative services, including a Tier 2 CAM service, an Edge of Care team, an adolescent social work team, and an exploitation service called Evolve. We're really keen to have clinicians who wish to be alongside us in our journey to outstanding. Practitioners are trained in AMBIT and DDP, and we wish to add systemic psychotherapy as another modality through which to work with those in our community. So please come and join us. Consider applying. I would. I know I did, and I haven't looked back. Thank you so much.
Thanks for sharing that, Matt. So I think, you know, for me, I've got other videos that I could have shown you that actually may be a bit more dynamic, a bit slicker. So I showed you the one with Nick Pendry where it looked like he had a fan attached to the back of his ear, and then Nana Bonsu. Both great videos, but I think the whole point is it's unique and it's authentic for me. You know, as I said before, we're not Google. We're not producing the most slick professional advert. We're not doing it necessarily in a fancy office. And I do get some people come back and make objections to say, you know, it's going to be a bad video. I'd rather not do a video. You know, but I think there's someone on the team, or there's someone who can convey that authenticity, their passion, the mission, and it's not rehashing the ad. It should be no longer than a minute. I really think that there's something in the fact that, you know, the fact that there is that sort of fan there, he hasn't thought about it, or that's what the office looks like, or, you know, that's how it is. That's who you're joining. If you don't like the sound of the person, you don't think it's a mission that you like, or you can see yourself working with them, then don't apply. But hopefully you will get that message that people are here for the right reasons. We're attracting similar, like-minded people. So I think it is really valuable. And as I say, we have also backed up by this sort of overview video with somebody more senior from that department as well. Okay. The mandatory element of the recruitment workshops now is that anybody that has any reporting lines, so anybody with any management responsibility, that's about 850 people at Richmond and Wandsworth councils, anybody would now mandatory have to be required before being on an interview panel or in an interview process, had to have attended this workshop. We run it every Tuesday, 2:30 to 4:30. So it's on MS Teams. It's really interactive, and I think, you know, from what we've seen in the past, where you'd spend half a day or a day, and it, you know, can be a bit drab. It's really fun. We get everyone involved. I just think, you know, I think this year we've had about 500 people. We have about 12 a week. We've had around 500 people attend, so we've got another 300 or 400 to go. But it's also open to anyone that might want to be on a panel or have an interest in being part of an interview process. So we really focus on what I've shown you. So yes, just wondered how you police mandatory attendance. I'll come to that. That's a really good point. So there's quite an ED&I focus to it, because it's interesting, because people will always say, oh, I've done these courses before, I know it, I understand it. And yet when you ask what the 9 protected characteristics are, what the Equality Act's about, you know, what the 4 different types of discrimination are, how it relates to the interview process, well, actually people can't give good examples, and they don't really know. So it's also an opportunity to talk about your routes to market. The fact, yes, at LinkedIn you might be with the Guardian Online, Diversity Jobs Group, local government, the MJ, you know, Tribepad. It's your opportunity to talk about your routes to market. It's your opportunity to talk about how to define a job, how to write a good advert, and to really engage and talk about, you know, leaving all that sort of staid sort of speak that you see on the job adverts behind, and trying to be a bit more modern, a bit more funky, have a bit more license to be a bit more creative. In answer to the question, how do we police it? It's difficult, but it's about engaging with your internal stakeholders. So what I've done is I ensure that there's a regular list of attendees that's produced, split by the different directorates, and sent out to the relevant HRBPs. So then the responsibility is with them to push back and say, well, we've had a list of our 50 relevant people that ought to be attending this course, and we've only had 20. So again, it's the gentle reminder, please can you attend the course? It's running every Tuesday. So can I share the program outline? I'm very happy just to forward on the entire pack so you can see it, and if you nick some of it, that's absolutely fine. I don't mind, but you know, if you've ever got any good ideas that could be of use for Richmond and Wandsworth, hopefully you'll share them with me. But I think it's in everyone's interest to, yeah, just to leverage good information off each other. So yeah, I can put some details around the evaluation forms and this slideshow that we use for the recruitment and training workshop. So if we pop onto the next slide, I think we've got one more. Are we there? No, thank you. Okay, so no, it's a thank you. So I just finish off. I'm conscious that we need to leave time for questions, but I think, you know, engagement goes further than the hiring managers. It's that engagement with your BPs, with your HR consultants, but also with the top of the pyramid, the ADs, the Ds, and speaking to them and ensuring that they're on mission. They understand what you're trying to achieve and how you can work together. You know, I've had a number of senior hires where I've gone ahead and done them myself rather than use an expensive agency in recent months. And those were sort of what we call MG4. So, you know, we're talking about 100, 110, 120K, you know, fairly significant salaries within local government. And it's just a lot of the time it can be done using LinkedIn, using video, using good social media, having good comms, using your networks rather than just automatically going out. But it only comes with that good internal engagement piece. So I think, you know, I talked about earlier focusing on 2 or 3 objectives. So, for example, within our children's department recently, they've just looked at hires for September and October at MG1, so manager grade and above. They've just looked at the makeup of their hires by ethnicity, and have seen that there's a lot of white faces there compared to the makeup of the borough itself, and that's skewed. And then you can look deeper. What was the ratio? How did that come across from applications to interview and interview to hires? You know, what was the panel makeup? Is there anything we could be doing better? Is it the questions we're asking? So, you know, drilling down into some specific objectives there, and then using some nice sort of flow charts, pie charts, just really get all of this information from Tribepad. So we have a systems expert, Marcus, who works for us but works very closely with Tribepad. And, you know, I think every month now we're realizing there's more and more that we can do. We can get out of the system, and that comes back to that sort of ad hoc information as and when it's needed. So it's really, really important. And the team, the recruitment team, are really engaged as well. They're responsible for various projects. One of them might be working on a disability confidence scheme. One of them might be focused on improving our videos and giving advice. Another might be looking at working with Adecco and myself to look at agency workers that are perhaps with us for far too long, have had long tenure, or are very highly paid. So I think, you know, if we're able to be more and more automated, as we are, we're able to free up some of that time to be, as I said at the beginning, less transactional and more project focused. So hopefully that gives you a flavour of what we've done. And back over to you, Matt, to engage and facilitate questions.
Yeah, no, that's brilliant. Thanks so much for sharing that, Simon. As someone on the outside looking in, I've learned a huge amount there, and I'm sure all of our peers and colleagues have as well. Gordon, I'm not sure how much time we have here.
Yeah.
I think we're running
I was
down.
just going to say we've probably got just a couple of minutes. I was just looking at the questions to see if there's any in the chat that we haven't addressed. I was just going to say, from my point of view, probably for the last few years, the routine recruitment's just run in the background, hasn't it? It's run fairly smoothly in the background. And this year, and there's a number of drivers for this, including Brexit, COVID, etc. It's absolutely prominent, and we know that what's happening nationally is then reflecting onto us in our local authorities. The huge number of vacancies nationally, shortage areas that certainly I don't think we've ever seen before. So where we've looked at traditional shortage areas, if you like, around say social work, engineering, etc., those kind of middle grades, we're now seeing shortages in very low paid, sort of high numbers. And I think there's just some really interesting stuff that you're doing. Not surprising that we've got quite a few people on the call, because I think recruitment is suddenly everybody's priority. So the smarter we can be, the better. Just got a couple of minutes, just picking up anything in the chat. I think in terms of how you encourage responses, I think you've probably addressed that, Simon, through the, various routes, including LinkedIn, etc. Just wondering if there's anything else. Certainly one comment from Steve: it shouldn't be complicated, and I think that's very true. Sophisticated, yes, but not complicated. I think probably, unless you've spotted anything, we've picked up probably all the points that have been made. Perhaps the mandatory attendance, which is a classic problem, is maybe the only one that you were going to touch on.
Yeah. I thank you, Gordon. So the mandatory attendance, it is difficult, but we're consistently getting message out on our intranet, on the sort of staff news. But as I say, it's actually a case of using our systems people to ensure that we've got the names of every single sort of person that ought to be on the course, and then breaking it down by directorate, sending it out to the BPs to say, you know, this is who hasn't attended. So Louise is just saying, can you tell us more about your specific, what's it say? Driver.
Diversity focused job boards.
Yes. Sorry, I couldn't see the whole thing. Diversity focused job boards. Yeah, we use a diversity jobs organisation, and that allows us to. I think you know it's quite reasonable. There's a diversity focused jobs board. If you wanted to contact me separately, I could give you the specific details. But it allows us to then to it's called Diversity Jobs Group, diversityjobsgroup.com, and through the Diversity Jobs Group, we are tapped into sort of jobs for disability, jobs for dad, jobs for mum, jobs for over 50, jobs for gender neutral. So it taps into lots of other areas. And actually, they've just got a new MD recently, and they're improving their service even more. So yeah, I'd really recommend you take a look at them. It's diversityjobsgroup.com. A chap called Joe Sweeney.
Thanks, Simon. I'm kind of conscious we said we'd keep to half an hour, and I think this is one of those topics where we could keep going.
We could.
And I'm just saying, really grateful to you and Matt for the presentation and the preparation of the presentation. It's been really interesting. And just a quick plug before we end. So thank you everybody for joining. The next webinar in the series is on the 19th of November at 12, so just a week's time. And that's around One Hounslow workforce transformation. It's called Leading with Heart. And what it's really about is how Hounslow, well, it actually says here, the award-winning London Borough of Hounslow, I should say the whole thing, achieved transformation through a whole organisation conversation, which then enabled the development of a new values framework. So in a week's time, we can hear from Hounslow about how they've approached that. So thank you all very much for attending, and again, thanks to Simon and Matt. Okay.
Cheers. Thank you,
Excellent.
everybody.
Appreciate it. Cheers. Bye.